want to talk?
I'll talk really quick.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Joe Montalbano. I am the Director of Counseling at the high school. And we are very fortunate. We work with MIFA, which you'll hear more about. Jonathan Hughes has been coming to our school now for how many years? Besides COVID, at least 7 years, I would think, right? So he's been presenting to parents for a number of years here. At the high school level, we offer a variety of planning nights, and we certainly think that knowledge is power. And so having an idea about financial implications of college and that type of thing we think is important. And, you know, I think just hearing Jonathan's presentation can be very helpful for you down the road. And we just, again, we're glad that you're all able to attend this event tonight. And we have multiple events going on tonight. If you didn't figure that out when you came in, which is why people are probably filtering in now, it's also parent-teacher conferences in our spring open house at the high school level. So we have multiple things going on tonight. So I apologize for that, but that was unfortunately that was unavoidable. So again, I just wanted to thank Jonathan for coming in, and I hope everybody finds the presentation valuable. I think you will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, all right, good. All right, well, thank you. Yes, I always do love coming here to Burlington High and talk about savings. We always have a good crowd, and we do tonight, so thank you very much again for being here. This is, again, college savings, and it's going to take us probably about 45 minutes from now to talk about college savings. And so this QR code here is, so if you want to take a picture of this and access this, this will bring you to the sign-up sheet for MIFA emails. We'll send you 1 or 2 emails a month based on the age of your child or children with information that's going to be relevant to you. I am here from MIFA. Oh, there I am, looking slightly younger. And I've been at MIFA for over 20 years, so I've talked to a lot of families about paying for college, and I've worked really intimately with the actual savings piece. So we have savings programs at MIFA that I'm going to get into, and we used to administer at least one of them internally, so when folks called up and asked questions about their savings program, they were talking to me, so I get to talk to them. And I always love talking about savings, because the other things that we do are talking about loans and giving loans out and helping folks to repay those, and talking about financial aid and all this stuff. Savings is just fun to talk about, and it's a good thing to advocate for, because it always helps. I always say that I never have had anybody regret saving. And that is true. I've talked to many, many families over the years, and everybody is glad that they saved what they saved. Maybe they wish they could have saved more, but they are glad that they do have it. So that's one of the things that we're actually going to talk about today. And if you have any questions as we go through, just raise your hand, and we can talk about it. And I may get to your answer to your question later on, so I might say we're going to get to that. But I'll be here afterwards as well if you have questions that you don't want to ask in front of everybody else. Just to tell you a little bit about MIFA. MIFA is the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority. We're a quasi-state authority. We were created by the state of Massachusetts back in 1982, and we have a public service mission to help families to plan, save, and pay for college. When we were initially created, what we were created to do was to offer a loan. And that's something that we still do. I mentioned loans earlier. We still offer a fixed interest rate loan. However, since 1982, as you may have noticed, college has gotten more expensive. So just offering that loan wasn't going to be enough to continue to fulfill that. So we had 2 savings programs, which we're going to talk about tonight, which are the U-Plan, prepaid tuition program, and the 29 plan. And so that's how we help families to pay for college, to save for college, and a lot of what we do in addition to that is education, outreach, kind of what we're doing here tonight. We have articles that we post on the website, videos, podcasts, tools, the website, which you have access to as well, mifa.org, from that QR code. So basically what I want to leave you with is that we are a free resource to help you with any questions that you might have, whether it comes to saving for college, filling out financial aid forms, college admissions, repaying. We're a free resource for counseling for all of those things. And so everything that we do is free except for the loans that you have to repay with interest. But other than that, Everything else is free. So, please, you will have questions throughout, and also, if you have questions after this, I can hang out here and I can give you my my card. I have my little digital card I can give you. Please feel free to talk to me personally. So what we're going to talk about tonight, and again, if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. We're going to talk about why savings is important, and I know you have an idea that it is because you're here. But we'll talk about that in more detail. We'll mention those two savings options that I talked about, which are the U-Plan and the U-Fund. However, I do want to stress that I'm not here to sell you on those particular programs, right? So any way that you save is a good way to save. Saving something somehow is better than not saving anything. But there are certain ways that when you do save for college, it goes a bit further. There are certain programs that have incentives or tax breaks or something related that helps you to save for college. And so these are examples of those programs. So we'll talk about those. We'll talk about strategies for saving. So what are some ways that we know people who have saved have had success? And then finally, we're going to talk about how people actually do pay for college, because if there's one question I still get all the time from families, it's what do people do? How do people do this? People call and say, I'm thinking about taking this amount out in a loan. Is that what people do? Do people take this money? Do they do it? And so people really do want to know that. And I think there's a lot of ideas about what is the right way or the popular way to pay for college. Before we get started, I like that section at the end because we do talk about the cost of college. How many people have an idea of how much college is going to cost for a year? What do you think? Anybody want to shout out a figure? No? 40,000? 75? Okay. All right. We'll get to that. We'll get to all that. That's at the end. But the answer, I'll spoil it. It depends. But we'll get to that. Okay. So talking about why I said this is something we put right in the front because this is really, I think, the most important slide we're going to talk about, which is there are myths that we've heard about saving for college. People want to save for college, but they're not sure if they should, because number one, they think if they do save, they're not going to get any financial aid from the colleges, right? So people say, well, I was going to save, but I have this, I don't want to save. Let's say if I save $10,000 to college, I look at that and say, well, I was going to give you a grant, I was going to give you a scholarship to have this money saved, so I'm not going to do that. And it doesn't really work like that. We'll talk about financial aid a little bit later on, but there are two ways to determine financial aid. One is merit-based aid, so merit aid are things like student scholarships. It doesn't have anything to do with finances. The other way is need-based financial aid, so they do look at your finances. They look at your income and your assets, and the student's income and the student's assets, etc. And what you have saved there will play some role in your eligibility for need-based financial aid, but it doesn't play that much role, a very minimal role. Parent income is really the main factor when determining how much financial aid you might be able to receive. And I know it's very hard to talk just a little bit about financial aid, so I just want to leave that there, but I can elaborate later on if you have questions about financial aid. So it's really not that simple. Savings typically affects your eligibility for financial aid at a very small percentage. The other thing that we hear is that it's not worth saving for college if I can't save the entire cost. And that 40,000 figure, that 75,000 figure that people have in their minds, for good reasons though, multiply that by 4, they think I have to save $160,000, I have to save $280,000, I can't do that. But the fact is that shouldn't be the target that you have in mind. Most families are going to be eligible for some form of financial aid, some level of financial aid. So I remember when I had my son, I have a 10-year-old, and we did a future college cost calculator for him, and I saw how much a 4-year private college in New England was going to cost, and I had that moment where I thought, oh, forget it, there's no way I can save that. And there's probably not a way that I can save all that money, but that's not the target that I should have in mind. I'm not going to be charged that full amount in all likelihood. So it definitely is worth it to save what you can, because anything you're saving is something you don't have to borrow. So savings can reduce or eliminate your loan debt, your need to borrow loans, even if you can't save the entire amount after aid. So yeah, this is basically what I just said on that slide. So having savings does help you. As I said before, nobody I've talked to ever regretted saving. Having some savings just makes the whole process a little bit easier on parents, because they know they do have something saved, they can pay a portion at least. It might increase the range of colleges that you're looking to apply to, because you have that saved. And there might be some programs that aid is not available for, like study abroad programs, so you have savings, you might be able to pay for those. But really for me, the biggest thing here are those 2 points: reduce or eliminate the need to borrow loans, and has a minimal impact on your financial aid eligibility. And we can talk more about that later on, but that really is, those are the main points I wanted to take from that slide. Anybody have any questions so far? No. This slide here is taken from a Washington University study, and essentially it looks at 529 plans. Who knows what a 529 plan is, or has heard of a 529 plan? Okay, something. So they're fairly popular vehicle for college savings. We'll talk about them in detail a little bit later on, but I think they're probably the most well-known specific college savings programs. And so there's all sorts of studies being done on savings habits and the effect of college savings, specifically 529 plans. And what this slide really shows, the graphic, is this is the low to middle income children who graduate from college by savings amount. And so you can see here, no savings account, 5% graduation rate, $1 to $499 goes way up to 25%, and then over $500, you're 35%. So what this really shows to me is that it doesn't really matter the amount that is saved. Even a very low amount has an outsized impact on whether children attend college and graduate. If a child knows that money is being set aside for him or her, they're much more likely to attend college and to graduate, even if it's not a lot of money. Even between $1 and $499, the graduation rates go way up. And that's something that we'll talk about again when we talk about our Baby Steps program, which I don't know if any of you have heard, but it's basically a statewide seeded 529 program. So it's just another benefit of 529s. Yes, it helps you pay for college. Yes, savings help you pay, but it's a psychological sort of goal for the student, that they know what's expected of them after high school. They have a much greater likelihood of going to college and to graduate. So we're going to talk about our 2 savings programs now. And so one of them is this U Fund, the Massachusetts 529 plan. So what a 529 plan is, it was created back in the 90s. And so it was created by the federal government. It's a tax advantaged way to save for college, or now college and career readiness. But essentially every state was then tasked with creating their own 529 program. And so the Massachusetts 529 program is the U Fund, which is the MIFA program. And how it works is you open up your account, you put in some money, the money is invested. It's invested in the market by Fidelity Investments. That's who we've contracted to service the investments in the accounts. And the money grows with the market, right? So, and it grows without taxes. When it comes time to use the money, you withdraw the funds. As long as you use it for an eligible educational expense, you don't pay any taxes on the earnings. So that's your tax advantage right there. Now, what are eligible expenses? Things like tuition, fees, food and housing, books, supplies, equipment. So there's a lot of costs that you can use your 529 funds for and still get that benefit. Just because it's a Massachusetts 529 plan doesn't mean you have to go to a college in Massachusetts. You can go to any accredited college in the country, actually even some outside the country, as long as they're set up to take US federal funding. And you can use it and still, again, not pay taxes on those earnings. Actually, it doesn't even have to be used for college per se. So you can use it for vocational training programs, career training programs, as long as, once again, the institutions are set up to take U.S. federal funding. So it's very varied, it's quite flexible in how you can use the funds. That's really the big sort of selling point, I think, for a lot of folks. The combined account maximum is $500,000, so if you get $500,000 in your account, you can't put any more in. If that's a problem, congratulations, but a very good problem to have. There is no minimum to get started, so that's the maximum. There's no minimum, so you can open an account with $5, $10, nothing. You can open an account with no money and choose to fund it later. And there's no annual account maintenance fee, so what that means is there's no fee that you're going to have to pay out of pocket to do this. There are fees associated that are taken out of the earnings. So, did you have a question? Okay. And so there are multiple investment options as well. So this is an investment vehicle. So you need to, when you open up your account and you want to put your money in, you have to choose an investment strategy. And so this is an area that Fidelity can help you with. I can say from personal experience, I have 2 U-Fund accounts. I have one for my son and one for my nephew. The first time I opened up for my account, I needed a gift. And so I said, oh, I'll get him a U-Fund. So I opened up the U-Fund and I had some questions and I was able to call Fidelity. It was 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I got somebody there able to help me. So they're very available and they're very helpful. So I'm glad to be able to sort of like personally vouch for that. And there's the contact information right there. Now, as I said, there are many investment options. They can counsel you on investments and how comfortable you may be with certain investments. And you can change that investment strategy too later on if you decide you don't like how it's invested. So that is the U-Fund. Any questions on the U-Fund? No? Okay. I will talk about, oh yes, yep.
So do you have to declare the beneficiary?
Yes, yes, a good question, yeah. So when you set up the account, the question was, do you have to declare the beneficiary? And the answer is yes. So when you're setting up the account, you need to pick an owner and a beneficiary. So the owner is the adult who will be in control of the account. And so they have control over the account. They're the only person who can take money out of the account, they can send it to a college, they can cash out, and then the beneficiary is the child. You can change beneficiaries within the, within the family, essentially.
So,
yeah.
In continuation to that, if I have another or if I have another son, right?
Yes.
So we have to add a second beneficiary. I mean, we can add.
Yes. So if you have a child, and you have 529 for them, and then you have another child, you just need to open up another account, essentially.
And
yeah.
we can transfer money from this.
Yes. Yes, you can transfer funds from one to the other. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So when I change the beneficiary, is there a time constraint that I cannot withdraw the amount for a certain period of time, or can I like change the beneficiary today and withdraw it against that beneficiary?
Yes. There's no. You can change the beneficiary and then withdraw the funds right away. Yep. You can do it. Yes.
I was just going to say, if there's a question, you can either repeat it or give them the mic, just so we can.
Oh, sure. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Let's think about it. Let me know. Now there have been, and you'll forgive me, I thought I brought an older version by mistake of this. I'm not sure. I don't think we have this slide. It's something we added, so I'll just say it. If we do later on, I'll go back. But some popular questions, popular what ifs, right? So what if your child doesn't end up going to college? You got this money saved for him or her in 529 and they end up going. Well, one thing we talked about already, you can transfer the funds over to another beneficiary if they might go. You can hold on to the funds if they don't go right away, but they may later on. You can hold on to the funds there. Again, it doesn't have to be used for college per se. If they go to a vocational training program, you can use the funds for that as well. If you do have to withdraw the funds and you can't use them for an eligible expense, then there's a tax penalty for that. So I want to make that clear. But it's also important to say that the tax penalty is assessed on the earnings of the account and not what you put in. So there's a 10% penalty on the earnings if you withdraw and use it for something that it's not intended for. And then the earnings are also taxed at the owner's rate of income. There are 3 exceptions to the 10% penalty: death and disability of the student, and then also scholarship. So if a student gets a scholarship, you have to take the money out. You can't use it for college because of that scholarship amount, then you're not assessed the 10% penalty on that scholarship amount. But you are always going to be taxed at the owner's rate of income on the earnings for that. It can also be used for graduate school. I'll say that too. So if you have funds left over after graduate school and the student wants to go to grad school, you can use your 529 funds for that as well. So that's the U Fund 529. Yes?
Question about the ownership of beneficiaries. So can it be passed down from one generation to the next in the sense that, like, I know I get what kind of school my son's going to go to, or if he's going to go to school, like you said. So if, and I only have one child.
Yeah.
So if he's the beneficiary, would he be able to transfer to any future children that he has after that?
So that's a complicated. The question is, can you transfer the funds through generations, right? You can transfer within the family, right? So you can transfer from your child to cousins, to yourself, to grandchildren if you remain the owner. But I think if it's a situation and you can leave these accounts in for, there's no set time that you have to sort of liquidate them by. And I'm not an expert on this part of things, but I think if there were sort of multi-generational transfers, as if like a will or something like that, I think that may trigger some tax consequences. So that's something that I would suggest maybe is sort of a call to fidelity about that. Thank you. Yes?
Some states offer tax benefits, but not here, right?
No, we're going to get to that. That's something I said. We do have tax benefits for this for Massachusetts, so we will get to that. Yes.
If on the investment options, what we put in, is it at least secure? Like, will it always grow, or
Right.
is there a risk that we
Yeah.
actually in the investment can actually lose the money?
Yes, that's a good question. So the question, I'll repeat it, is the investment options that you have, is there a possibility that you could lose what you put in, right? And that is a possibility. But it depends on the investments. You know, it depends on the market, depends on the investment strategy, depends on what happens. There is an option though that you can invest in, which is an FDIC insured option to safeguard your principal up to $250,000. So there is an option for that. I think the trade-off for that might be when the market's doing really well, it might not grow the same way as one that's not insured. But yeah, that's a great example of a conversation to have with Fidelity, so they can sort of, if they think you're not comfortable and you want to go with the FDIC insured, they can talk to you about that. Yeah.
I was just I'm gonna shift gears.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
Very, very sorry, this is, there's a few curveballs today, this is a good one though. We're just gonna let Karen Wazen just jump in very quickly because she's a very busy lady, I don't wanna keep her here all night, but I'll let you talk.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Karen Wiesner. I am a Burlington resident my whole entire life. I have 6 children. My 5th and 6th are currently a senior and a sophomore here at Burlington High. I have been involved in running and volunteering for the Burlington High School online graduation party. We try to give them a plug at every single thing that happens here. It's an event that happens on graduation for seniors from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. on graduation night every single June. Senior parents cannot volunteer for it. Kids don't want their parents there. The event costs us about $22,000. It's going to cost us this year to run, to have enough entertainment to keep the kids very, very busy. Our ask for you is just to put it on your radar screen. Anybody that volunteers for us and helps us chaperone or do pick up food to be delivered here that Sunday night, like any kind of chaperoning or volunteer hours whatsoever from any time from middle school through your senior year, your children's senior year, can qualify for Adopt a Class, Dollars for Scholars points towards scholarship money. So my daughter's a senior this year and I have done hours every year since she's been here. I can't volunteer at the event, but she will get scholarship money based on my volunteer hours. So anybody in Marshall Simons, anyone in any of the elementary schools, and any of the high school parents can also volunteer on our committee. Our Facebook page, which is the most active way to get opportunities to volunteer, is BHS Post-Graduation Party on our Facebook, and we do all of our fundraising through that. We do all of our volunteer and chaperone, and it could be as much as picking up 10 pizzas from Domino's on Main Street and dropping them here that Sunday night at 9 p.m. We have food runners getting all of our stuff for us, so we have a ton of volunteer opportunities. Anyone that is involved in that program, this is another way for you to get points as a parent. There's really no other opportunities as a high school parent to get more points for your kids, because once they get to high school, it really falls on the children to get their own volunteer points for their program. So anyway, so if you hear of us, please join us on our Facebook page. Please follow us. Feel free to join, and you can get yourself and your children some volunteer hours towards scholarships that they can cash in on when they're seniors. So thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you very much. So there was a scholarship adjacent sort of thing, so yeah. Yes, yeah, it's a segue, thank you. No, I don't do that. Okay, so that's 529, that's the E-Fund. I'm gonna go ahead then and talk about the E-Plan, which actually came out before the E-Fund. It's sort of weirdly territorial about the E-Plan, because this is the one that we used to serve as in-house, we don't anymore. But the U-Plan is a different type of program. It's a prepaid tuition program. And so this is only the second prepaid, I believe, this is being recorded, but I believe this is the second one in the country. It was from 1995. It's not a 529 plan, it's not invested in the market. Basically, it allows you to prepay up to 100% of tuition and fees at all participating colleges. So there are over 70 participating colleges, they're all in Massachusetts. So this is a very Massachusetts sort of centric program. And it takes a bit of explaining. And I did not work with the E-Plan for the first few years that I was at MIFA, and it always seemed really confusing to me, and I didn't want to think about it too much. And then I did start working with the E-Plan, and I loved it. I started to really love the program because I saw how well people could do with it. And once you get it, it just kind of clicks, and so I'm going to try to do that for you. And so how it works is you put in a certain amount of money. It is not invested in the market, it's invested in general obligation bonds that are backed by the full faith and credit of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They accrue interest at CPI, so inflation, right? And essentially, depending on the amount that you put in, you're going to buy a percentage of each participating college's tuition for this year. So let me explain it. If you put in $1,000, that's going to buy 10% of tuition at a college that costs $10,000 this year. So let's say I do that. I put in my $1,000 and I buy 10% at a particular college, and I say, okay, I want this for my son's freshman year of college. It's going to be 8 years from now. Okay, so if he goes to that college, and that college is now $20,000. It was $10,000, now it's $20,000. He's going to have 10% of $20,000, or $2,000, right? So his $1,000 became $2,000 because it grew with tuition. So you're buying a percentage of tuition and fees at every participating college, and then you always have that percentage for the maturity year that you select. So you put the money in, you say the year. You don't have to pick the school. You will get a report every quarter with your money and the interest that's accruing on it. And then every year you'll get one that says, okay, this is what you have. Here are all the colleges that participate, and this is the percentage of tuition you have at each college. Now, based on that, you can take a look and sort of get a feel for how much you have at certain colleges. Now, let's say you do that, and let's say next year you put in another $1,000. That's going to buy a percentage of that year's tuition at each participating college. So that college that cost $10,000 last year, maybe it costs a little more this year. You're putting in $1,000. You're going to buy a little bit less than 10% of tuition for this year. If you're selecting the same year, then it gets added and you have 19.5% of tuition for that year. So your investment is keeping pace with the growth in tuition every year. Okay? Okay. So, obvious question. Who wants to ask it? Yes.
What happens if your child doesn't go to the participating?
Yes. That's obvious. Yeah. What happens if they don't go to one of those colleges, right? So what happens is you have the same sort of chance with as you do with the U fund. You can transfer the funds over to another beneficiary, or you can cash out and get what you put in plus the interest. Unlike the 529 fund, there's no tax penalties for doing that. So there's no Commonwealth taxes, and it's our bond council's opinion that there's no federal taxes as well. We don't generate the tax paperwork on distributions. So you get what you put in plus the interest. It's a little bit different than the U fund in that it only locks in tuition and mandatory fees. Mandatory fees are fees that every student is going to have to pay regardless of their year. So it's not going to go towards freshman fees, orientation fees. Their major, it's not going to go to lab fees or anything like that. And whether or not they live on campus, so it's not going to go towards housing if they live in a dorm. So tuition and mandatory fees. And if you go to MIFA.org, there's a listing of all the participating colleges and their most recent tuitions. You can look that up. I think the most recent tuitions are on MIFA.org. If they're not, you can call and have that discussion. But the participating colleges are all there. So that is essentially the U plan. So you put funds in. Every year there's a bond purchase. It occurs in August. So you can open up an account at any point throughout the year, and sort of, just like the U fund, you can have funds withdrawn automatically every month. You can do that. What happens is, throughout the year, when we do that bond purchase in August, we're going to take everything that you put in, plus the interest that accrued on it, and that's the amount that's going to buy that bond in August, and that's the amount that we're going to use for the purchase. So that's going to basically be the percentage of tuition that you purchase. It has to be at least $300 at that point to prepay any tuition. If it's not, if it's under $300, it won't go into a bond. You won't prepay any tuition, but the money will still be there. And if you're adding money to it, then next year probably it would be over $300 and enough to do that. There's a 5-year minimum between when you put money in and when you can get it out, because the bond takes at least 5 years to mature. So you can contribute to this up until probably, I mean, there's no set limit, but it probably won't make sense to do it after the student's freshman or sophomore year in high school, right? Because after that, if we're estimating that the student is going to go to college right after high school, the maturity year is going to be after they graduate college. It cannot also be used for graduate school, only undergraduate, unless you cash it out, which you can use for anything. That's a lot of details, a lot of like little nooks and crannies there. That. So if you have any questions, I understand. If you have questions and you want to ask them, I'm around afterwards. You can call me later as well. We can talk about it. Yes.
So if you put in your example, it was $1,000,
Yep.
and it was 10% of a 10,000. So that's 1 year.
Yes.
So how does that work for 4 years?
Yeah, good question. So in my example, I did, to make it easy on me, I said, okay, because what you have to do when you set up an account, the question is, how do you do it for over 4 years? Because I only used 1 year in my example. Well, you have to put the money in for each year that you want it for. So you can designate, okay, I'll have, if I want to put in $300, the minimum for each of these 4 years, I would have to designate, this goes to year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. And so it will be split up over that amount. So some people, a lot of people do that, and they put in for every year. Some people try to load the front year or the front 2 years. Some people actually do the back 2 years of the last one because they know that tuition is going to go up more, so they're going to get more from their investment that way. So it's all depending on how you want to do it. But that's a good question. Yeah, you'd have to select each year. But, you can also, just because if you have a lot of money in the first year and you don't end up needing all of it, you can always use that in a later year. You can use some of it and use what's left over. The thing is, you've designated a maturity year, and once the bond reaches maturity, you are going to get the percentage of tuition that you are owed for the maturity year. So it's not going to continue to grow with tuition after your maturity year. There's still going to be interest that gets added to it, and that will go to you, but it won't continue to increase at the rate of tuition after its maturity year, that you can still use it. Anybody have any questions? Yes?
Is there a maximum for the U plan?
Is there a maximum for the U plan? No. There's not a maximum for the U plan.
Also, can you do the combination of the U plan and a U plan?
Yes, good question. Can you do both? Yes, you certainly can. So it's a great thing to do if you can do both, because the U plan can lock in tuition and fees, and the U fund can go for the other expenses. But yes, you can do both.
So in simple terms, what I understood, correct me if
Yes.
let us say the annual fee today is 50K,
Mhm.
for example.
Yes.
And I invest 50K this year.
Yep.
After 5 years, when my kid goes for college, there is no need for me to pay for the first year.
For the tuition and the fees, if they go to a participating college, they will have 100% of tuition and fees.
Then what happens if they are eligible for a scholarship? If they-
So yeah, good question. Yeah, so what happens if they're eligible for a scholarship? Take the scholarship, and you can use only what you need from the U plan funds, and then you'll have the remainder to use in the following year. So let's say, and when I mean the remainder, I mean the dollar amount of tuition at the college.
So if I'm the college, right?
Yep.
And if you are the parent,
Mm-hmm.
what is the benefit for the college here? Because I know he has already invested for the first year.
Yep.
So there is no need for me to give scholarship. He will continue.
Well, so
It's like time.
So does
Yeah.
the college actually evaluate and see that if the person or the participant or the applicant
Yeah,
has
as a
any
U
kind
plan.
of U plan or U fund, because they know that we have a funding.
Yeah.
So why give a scholarship to?
no, so that's the thing. So scholarship is the question is if they know you've got a U plan or a U fund and you have them, why would they give you a scholarship, right? And the reason, the answer to that is, so there are two ways to award financial aid. Scholarship is merit-based, so it's not based on your finances. It's based on student academics, athletics, something that the student has done. So a lot of colleges just have their own practices of if you have this GPA or if you do this, you're eligible for this scholarship amount. So it doesn't really have anything to do with this here. Grants and things like that are based on need, but I can't speak for every eventuality, of course, but I would have a really hard time envisioning a scenario where a college would even know that there was a U plan and what it would be worth. I mean, the U plan goes in as if a parent owns it, it goes in as a parent asset, but it's not specified that it's a U plan per se. It just goes as the cash value of what's in the account along with every other asset. So I just don't think that would ever work out that way. If that makes sense.
Beneficiaries can be transferred just like U fund?
Yes, beneficiaries can be transferred. Yep, just like U fund. There was another question over here. Okay, yeah.
I mean, again, like you said, right, so if the kid decides to delay college by a year,
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so if the student decides to delay college for a year, you can use, so we can hold on to these certificates, they're called, the U-Plan certificates, until 6 years after they mature. It's not like the U-Fund where there's no set time where you can just hold on to it. You have to use it eventually. And so there's a 6-year minimum between, 6-year maximum after it's matured, you have to use it. In practice, it's a little bit more than 6 years. It's really more like 9 or so. But that is to say, you can hold on after it's matured and use it in a later year. And it will be worth what it was worth in the maturity year. So it won't gain in value at the college after that. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Thank you. Good questions. Oh, expanded 529 uses. So there's been an expansion in eligible uses for 529s. So 529s can now be used for up to $10,000 a year for textbooks, fees, and equipment for apprenticeships, up to $10,000 a year for K through 12 education, and a one-time $10,000 disbursement to repay student loans. So those good things. Oh, I mentioned baby steps, and this is really for younger kids, but it may apply to you or it may apply to somebody you know. The Baby Steps program is the first statewide seeded college savings account program in Massachusetts. Essentially what it is that $50 is set aside for every child born in Massachusetts or raised in Massachusetts, lives in Massachusetts, before they turn 1. Parents or whoever can open an account, and $50 will be seeded in, or 1 year from the date of adoption. So it's been around since 2020. Programs like this are kind of been more popular. You see this program in Maine, this program in Rhode Island, this program in the city of Boston, all over the place, to just to spur college savings and try to promote a college-going culture. So if you know anybody that may apply to, they have until a year. Yeah.
If it says Massachusetts resident, if
Yeah.
we just moved to Massachusetts, are we eligible for that? Or do we have to be 1 year within the, as I have a 4-year-old, for example.
Yeah.
And we moved to Massachusetts like 6 months ago, so.
Oh no! So yeah, if she was not 1 yet,
Okay.
you might be eligible for it. But yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, it has to be before the baby's first birthday or the first date of adoption, first anniversary of adoption. So, but we're in year 3 of this, and it's very exciting. So, I just like to mention in case it may mean something to some folks. Here we're going to talk about tax benefits. So there are tax benefits in Massachusetts. We didn't used to have them, but we do have them. I think it was 2017. They were there for 5 years, and then they're made permanent. Essentially, you can deduct up to $2,000 for married filers filing jointly, or $1,000 for individual filers of your contributions to the U Fund and U Plan, actually, on your Massachusetts state income taxes. So limits are per filer, not per account. So if you have 3 kids and you're doing, it's still just 2,000, it's straight 2,000 or 1,000, whatever it might be. But again, just to spur savings, and it's something that I think has worked, as a lot of people do take advantage of that, or try to maximize the amount that they want. And I'm still trying to do that. It's like, we gotta put in at least 2,000 to get the tax deduction. But, not at least, but to take full advantage of it. But yeah, so it's a good tool for doing that. Now I want to talk about strategies for savings. So, how do we know that people have had success saving for college? What are some things that people do? So, again, start saving as early as possible. That's always great. It's like retirement. The earlier you start, even with a little bit of money, it pays dividends down the road. But I would never say it's too late to start saving. I mean, I counsel people when they have kids going into school this year to start saving if they want to start at 529. Is there anything that you save is just something you're not borrowing, right? So, but using time to your advantage is a good thing to do. Start with a goal in mind. This is really hard because you just don't know how much you're going to need for college a lot of times. We do have a tool that can help you estimate that, and we'll talk about that. So it's great to have a goal in mind, but I just think it's good to just start anyway. Start with a goal in mind, sure, but just start. Take advantage of unexpected funds. So, tax time is coming up, hopefully. You get a tax refund, and we can maybe use some of that towards college savings. Any milestones, birthdays, anything like that, you can sock some of that money away. Using transfers is a huge thing. So you can, with the U Plan or the U Fund, any 529s, I think, you can have funds automatically deducted from a checking account. I'll tell you a story that when I had my son, I got a 529 plan, and of course, and I said to my wife about when he was 9 or 10 months old, like, we gotta start putting money aside for that. She's like, we've been doing that for like 9 months. I didn't know because it was coming directly out of my checking account, and I never looked at it. So that's what's going on in my house. But so you don't see it, you don't know what's going on, but it's being invested, and there's money growing, it's value being added to that every month. And we know that people who do that just generally have more success. And then getting the word out to family and friends is huge. So just because you're the one who owns the account, it doesn't mean you're the only one who can put money into the account. So, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, they can put money into a U Fund account. This image here on the right is, it's old now since I've run an old presentation, so I apologize, but it's from Fidelity's page, and it's basically a gifting page that they have created and allow us to use for these accounts. And so you can put a picture of the child there, you can put the age, the date that they're going into college, and what they want to be when they grow up. And you can have a link created and just email that link out to people and they can give money directly. And so I remember I had an aunt who would give me $25 a check every time I saw her for my son's youth fund. You take a picture of the check with the phone and deposit it in that way. So it's just a good way to grow an account. And then involving your child in the process, that always sounded optimistic to me. But I did talk with somebody who, she said that she made her daughter save half of everything that she got. She got money for birthdays, she got money for first communions, whatever it was. Save half of it, pay yourself first. That goes into the college fund. And they worked, and also it became a habit that she just took with her for the rest of her life, that she saved half of everything that she got. So it's something that I wish I had when I was younger, so I might be better at saving even now. But and I asked her, I said, can I still sell my story? I always talk about that when I do my college savings presentations. She said, oh yeah, I just talked to her the other day. She did the same thing. So it's good. It can happen to involve your child in the process. Oh, and this is the tool that I was referring to earlier to help you with that goal. I used to get calls all the time from really new parents, like new parents with newborn children. And they called up and they said, I want to make sure that college is paid for her by the time she gets to be 18. How much money do I need to put away every month? It's a really hard question to answer, right? And you don't want to say, oh, I don't know, because there's somebody who wants to start saving, they want to do the right thing. So they're all, gripped by it. But we don't know, because there's a lot we don't know. We don't know where they're going to school. We don't know how much financial aid they might be eligible for. We don't know, what the market's going to do, all this business. So with this tool, this is Mika's college planning tool, and it's on our site, and this will help you to sort of answer these questions. It does even more than this, but this is really part of it as far as I'm concerned. This graph here that you see is an image of it. And basically what you do, you create a profile, a family profile, and you say, okay, this is how old my child is, and based on that, they're going to say, okay, they should be starting college at this year. Based on the increase in tuitions, this is what tuition might be by the time they get there. And they can do that by school, they can do that by school type, location, things that, how much have schools like this or these particular colleges gone up, percentage-wise, every year. So they're going to estimate that. You can put how much you have in savings and how much you're putting in every month or periodically in savings, and then they will estimate how much you're going to have saved by the point that, the child is going to college. And then if you put your income in, they estimate how much financial aid you might be eligible to receive. So it gives you an idea. You can see in this example here, this is for 1 year, costs $59,995. Gift aid, that is not loans, it's not working, it's just gift aid, so scholarships and grants, not repaid. Eligible for $7,073. This family will have about $32,000 saved. And the shortfall that they're looking at for that year is $20,920. So based on this information, they know they either need to start putting more money away, looking at less expensive colleges, start applying for scholarships, which they can also do. And by the way, you can start applying for all of you, I think, can probably start applying for scholarships. All your children can probably do that. There are scholarships that start as young as, I've seen as young as grade 3 for college. It was a surprise to me, I didn't know that. But you can apply for scholarships throughout high school and throughout middle school. I mean, that it's rarer and the younger that you get, but you can start applying for scholarships early, like really early. So that's something that you can do. And it will give you guidance on how you can meet that shortfall and what you might want to do. And there's every year there are like tasks that you can complete. But to me, this is the big thing. Like it gives you an idea of how much your target might be and how close you are to meeting that target as you go. So that's Mika's college planning tool. Oh, we do have this compound interest. So this is what's going to help you if you do invest in an account that has compound interest like a 529. And that's essentially interest gaining on interest, right? So it's not just what you put in, it's the interest that accrues and the interest that accrues on that. So it's going to help you to save. In this example here, we have Julie. Julie starts saving $50 per month in a 529 account when her child is first born. Jonathan saves $100 a month in a 529 account beginning when his child is in 2nd grade. Who's going to have more money? What do you think? Julie, right? You think Julie? I think Julie. Okay. I won't put you through that. Yeah, it's Julie. Let me show you. So starting to save $50 per month. Now, just to give you an idea, this is imagining 10 years at 7% return, right? Or a 7% return, actually. And so this is something that Fidelity has done for us, and they think that that's a realistic marker. So I know people have other opinions about markets and things. I don't know anything about it, but that's what they told us. So she's going to have $21,536. I'm going to have $19,798. I assume that's me. But so we're close. We're close. But if you look at it, she's contributed $10,800 and has earned almost that exact amount in interest, so almost doubled her money. I've had to put in $13,200 and earn much less interest. So this assumes a consistent monthly saving until the child is 18, not 10 years, until the child is 18 at an investment return of 7%. So it just shows the power of using time to your advantage, as I said. So, any questions about that? Okay. Now we're going to close out on how families actually do pay for post-secondary education. Post-secondary education meaning anything after high school, so college, but even if it's not college, if you're going straight to career or workforce or career training, that's part of it as well. And so this is what I asked you about, what do you think the cost of college might be? And again, these numbers, forgive me, are just a year or two out of date, but generally they're close. So the first thing I want to explain about this, we 40,000, 75,000, 80,000. We've all heard on the news or read $80,000 a year for school. Every September, every August, they say it now costs X amount of dollars to go to this college. And these are always the most expensive colleges, right, in the region. And I'm not going to tell you that college is not expensive and that's all. It certainly can be. But it's just a little bit more complicated than that. So those colleges that are featured on those stories are, as I said, the most expensive colleges, which are typically your four-year private colleges. So there's all different types of colleges. Four-year private colleges, we have a lot of them in Massachusetts. Think about things like Boston College, Boston University, Harvard, Emerson, Amherst College, all sorts of examples. These are your four-year private colleges, not state colleges. And so the numbers I'm going to give you are national averages, and this is done by an organization called the College Board. They do the SATs and the AP as well. They do publications, research publications. This is trends in college pricing. National average, $66,800 per year. This is national, so in this neck of the woods we're a little bit higher than that. So. Now, these costs include tuition, fees, room, board, books, supplies, transportation, and other expenses. This is everything all together. It's called the cost of attendance, not just tuition fees, but everything. Now, you may not pay food and housing if you have a commuter student. So there's a little bit of elasticity there. But again, this is the average, including everything, $66,800 per year. Okay, so those are your four-year privates. Then you have four-year public colleges, right? So around here, UMass, the UMass system, Fitchburg State, Framingham State, Bridgewater State, these colleges are the four-year public colleges. And if you're going to a public college or university in the state that you live in, you get a discounted tuition, right? So for in-state students, the average costs about $27,330. So this is national average once again. But you're going to see there's a big difference between private and public, right? Now, if you go to a four-year public college outside of your state of residence, you're going to lose that discounted tuition. But even still, we're about splitting the difference there between the two of those. So $44,160 out of state per year. Now, this third category here does not come from the College Board. This comes from a place called Value Colleges, University Community College or Trade School, which makes the most sense. This is vocational programs, so programs that don't result in a degree, but they're for training for specific careers or programs, so cosmetology or HVAC or massage therapy, whatever it might be. This figure, it's hard to say, right, because there's a lot of different pathways and different jobs and different levels of education that you need, but this is the best I could find. This is under $33,000 for the entire education, which also, still sounds expensive, but again, I think it's for the entire education, where these other figures are per year. And then finally, we have the community colleges, the 2-year public community colleges, which are almost always the least expensive options, $9,500 per year. And I think we're close here in Massachusetts. They do have figures. When I first looked it was like 18,000 because of room and board. But all the community colleges in Massachusetts, none of them have dorms, I don't think. So it's just they're all commuter colleges. So I feel like this is just much more accurate in terms of what it might actually cost you. So the idea that I want to give you here is that there's a lot of different types of schools, right? It's not just as simple as college costs $70,000 a year. It can, but there's a lot of different types of colleges in Massachusetts. There's a lot of representation of all different types of colleges. The other thing I want to say is that, again, you might not be paying room and board, or you might not be paying there's ways to cut down on expenses like books and meal plans and things like that. But really the biggest point to me is these figures are all before financial aid. Right? So this is what's called sticker price. So it's not financial aid. So when we come to financial aid, again, the year 2020-2021, just to give you an idea of how much financial aid is granted, that's $175.1 billion in financial aid granted. I think the year after, the more recent figures actually a bit higher than that too. So there's a lot of money that's given every year in financial aid. And we've talked about merit-based aid and need-based aid, right? So merit-based is through scholarships and things like that. That's basically done at the school level, at the college level. Most financial aid is need-based, but there's sort of when you're filing your financial aid forms and things like that, that's what they're assessing your eligibility for that financial aid. But the fact is that most families are going to be eligible for some financial aid. And, it depends on how much on your finances, and it depends on where the student goes, because colleges will have their own practices for awarding financial aid as well. So the trick really is to find out how much financial aid you might be eligible to receive and how much college might cost you, not just how much the tuition sticker price is. So, how do people pay? Once they do financial aid, hopefully that takes care of a good amount of money, because once that's done, there's only 3 ways to pay, which is past income, meaning anything you've saved, or any other assets you might have to leverage, present income, so the salary that you're earning when the student is going to school. Now, I mention this because there are interest-free monthly payment plans that you can get on. So you sign up for those, you figure out how much you're going to pay every month, and then every dollar of that goes against tuition. You're not paying interest. A lot of people don't know that schools offer those, or they do. Now, I don't know many people who can afford to pay everything that way, but it is worth it to pay what you can, because once you do financial aid, use your savings, and exhaust anything you make at the time, the only thing left is loans, right? So future income. Student loans and parent loans. Now, student loans, we talk about student loans a lot. In this country, we talk about student loans a lot. So people think, because of the way we talk about it, that students can just borrow whatever it is that they might need for college, as long as they pay it back, or promise to pay it back afterwards. But that's not really true. They can borrow some money through the federal government on their own, but for undergraduate students, the limit is like $5,500 for freshmen, $6,500 for sophomores, $7,500 for juniors. That's part of the financial aid already. So if you have a balance due after financial aid, somebody on the loan is going to have to be credit approved to take out a loan. So any loan that you get after those loans, for the most part, is going to be dependent on credit approval. The reason I'm talking about this is that most students don't have credit to be approved, so they need a parent or somebody else to act as a co-applicant on these loans. And co-applicants are just as responsible as student applicants as well. So, that's how the MEF loan works, for example. Students are applicants, but somebody needs to be credit approved. It doesn't have to be a parent. It often is. Not always, though. It could be grandparent, aunt, friend, whatever it is. But they are just as responsible to repay. So you just want to make sure you maximize all of your other resources before you get to the borrowing part. Okay, so next steps. If you haven't started saving, start saving. If you have, continue to save or see if you can save more. Talk to your child about college. I mean, students, I think, are really worried about debt these days, which was not what it was like when I was in college, but they really, because it's become such a big story. So talk to your child about that. Talk about what you can afford. Talk about what options might be. And really talk about the fact that it really, what matters is what you do when you go to college. It's not where you go, it's what you do there. So just to have a good attitude by the time they do start applying to colleges so that they know sort of the score there. You can use online tools to learn more about college costs. We went over a few earlier. You can sign up for more of our webinars there. You can join our email community. You had the QR code earlier. This is our, I see it's old because it's got Twitter on there, not X. But this is our social media information, so you can follow us. We're always posting videos and tips and scholarship information, different scholarships that you can apply for in our podcast as well. So if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Otherwise, thank you for coming out on such a cold night, and thank you for being here and being interested in saving for college. It's a good thing to do. So, thank you. Oh, and I do have